Welcome back. Thank you. Next up is the State of Kansas Fest. This is something that we haven't done before. This is part of our effort to be more transparent about what we're doing, why we're doing it. This is an opportunity for you to give feedback about what you want from Kansas Fest. The community is evolving, the needs of the attendees of Kansas Fest are evolving. Looks like I see the first question out there. So we right now we're collecting locations for the next venue. I'll share some of those later on today. And I expect the venue search to transition from collecting candidates to digging in and narrowing those down within the next couple of weeks. These are the members on the planning committee and board. I want to distinguish between the planning committee and board for the day-to-day activities of Kansas Fest. There's really no practical difference. However, the board members are those who have their names on the paperwork for Kansas Fest, the organization, and have some additional responsibilities. The committee composition has changed quite a bit over the last couple of months. I think we're getting to the point where the composition of the committee is stabilizing and represents what we need to move ahead with some of the new priorities. Martin has recently taken on the role of our secretary. Kirk has stepped down recently after being our secretary for, I think, a year or two, and prior to that on the planning committee for many years. Jay has stepped into the role of treasurer. I've stepped up to the role of president with Sean stepping down. Javier remains on the planning committee. Chris has stepped up to vice president. Um, and Tony is a committee member in perpetuity as an honor to everything he's done for us. Anybody else from the committee want to add anything here? Again, everybody's a volunteer. We do this because we love the community. We love the Apple II, and we always welcome help. Even if it's help with a specific thing in a specific year, however small, that's what makes Kansas Fest happen. I'd also like to talk about some of our priorities over the next year. First is being more transparent about the processes and decisions. This meeting is part of that. The public minutes that Chris mentioned are another part of that. Um, we'll also continue to have town halls as needed. We had one town hall a couple of weeks ago. The recording of that is out there on YouTube. And feel free to ask questions about that. When there are enough questions that warrant another town hall, we'll do one. Also, everybody here is available for questions, discussions, invitations to any of our meetings. Our second priority is a commitment to return to in-person in 2026. I'll talk more about our venue search. Third is to continue the virtual event. I know the virtual event came up as a stopgap, if you will, the best we could do in 2019. But since then, it's proven to be a fantastic way to engage people around the world who'd otherwise not be able to come in person. The virtual event is and continues to be a priority for us. Fourth is the museum and archiving effort. I think these are secondary goals, but these remain part of our mission. But we really need partners to make this happen. There are so many things that have niche requirements or knowledge or expertise to really be able to understand and archive properly. And that requires somebody, possibly yourself, who has a passion for that particular niche. For example, right now we have collections from Roger Wagner. There's incredible depth of information there, not just about him, but about Apple's relationship with the dealers. We need people to dig into that, understand what's there. We can bring some of these things to the garage giveaway, but unfortunately, that's not really the right way to archive some of these unique items because people don't appreciate what they're seeing. Bits get scattered, and some of that gets lost. We have a handful of items in our museum. I've asked Sean to continue to help us understand how to structure that museum, but Again, it takes somebody with that deep knowledge to dig through that. We have quite a bit from the collection of Tony Diaz. Honestly, we don't quite know what's in there. There's definitely some gems. For example, we have a Mark Twain case, only the case. We have Apple Ethernet prototypes. There's a lot of other things in there. We need help going through that. If you think you're that person for any of the things I mentioned, let me know. I'll turn it over to the rest of the committee. Any other comments on our priorities for the next year?
No, that sounds great, Peter. I mean, I would definitely second the call for help on the museum and archiving. I think this is something that we know we want to do as an organization, but we just either don't have the skills, don't have the expertise, don't have the time, et cetera. But we would love to facilitate that. And so I think if you have an interest in doing things like that, even if it's just scanning, like if you have a nice scanner, you've got the time to scan a couple boxes of materials. We already have a couple people doing that for us, but the more the merrier.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention, Peter, we have about 10 preliminary venue selection surveys out there. So I'd like to ask if people that are interested in that, if they go out and kind of take that survey, and it's on the KansasFest site, right? The venue selection.
Yes, the URL's up there now. We also have a Discord channel, Venue 2026, for discussion.
Yeah, so we have about 10 of them right now, and we'd obviously like to get more of those to get a wide range of opinions on those. So people could please go and fill that ticket. It's real short. It's like 5 questions. So just go and fill that out, and that'll help us get into the next step of narrowing this down.
Yeah, and it's really a multi-step process. The first step is the easiest. We have a Google form out there for collecting possible venues. And this is the list of the current submissions, at least it was as of a couple of days ago when I pulled it. But there are many other opportunities. So look around at places you've been, places that are near you, places you've been to other conferences at, and let us know about those possibilities. And then the next step will be to dig into more detail. There's a multi-page checklist of the types of considerations that the committee will have. So as we dig into each of these candidate venues, we'll be going through those criteria. The criteria have 2 parts. The first part is something that we can do from home, calling people, looking on their website, figuring out, is this a good fit for us? And then the second piece involves going out to the site, seeing what's there, seeing what's happening. And we need your help to find and engage with these different venues so we can find something that matches KansasFest needs, matches the history, the theme, the way we want to run our unique event. Because the in-person event isn't like another conference. It's not like another trade show. I've heard it described as a summer camp. We've gone slightly out of order, but that's okay. We've also collected information about where people would like to see KansasFest hosted. I don't think there's a pattern here. I think this really means that people would like it close to their home. We'll try our best. We'll try to find a convenient location, but there are many considerations. And let me jump back to this slide about the finances. KansasFest is and has been a 501c3 nonprofit. We're incorporated in the state of Oregon. Our goal is to keep our registration costs pretty close to our actual costs. That is, try to break even. We do need to keep some money in the bank to deal with those unexpected situations. If, for example, there's one year when we showed up and there was a miscommunication, we thought we had purchased linens from the venue. We didn't. Well, guess what? We're making a frantic run to Walmart to solve that problem. And we need the reserves to deal with that. We also need the reserves to go after archiving and museum opportunities when they show up. We also try to put value back in the event. And as I said, nobody on the KansasFest planning committee is making any money off of KansasFest. We're all volunteers. We're paying the same registration fees that you do. The KansasFest Planning Committee comps themselves the early bird registration with the premise that you're probably working the entire day. In the past, we've comped t-shirts. So there's no financial incentive for the planning committee members to do what they do. There's the satisfaction of building something bigger, building something better than any one of us can do. We did have a loss starting in 2019. This is from the shift to virtual. The virtual event registration costs are lower, so simply less to work with, but the costs are also lower. The costs of the organization are lower, and therefore the registration costs are lower. Last year we did have a loss as well, and we moved to UAS. There's a lot of uncertainty with that move. There's things that need to change and didn't anticipate. Overall, I think our pricing for 2024 was spot on, but we did have two major unexpected expenses. First, we had the garage giveaway expenses of transporting that. We spent over $1,000 on truck rental alone. Hindsight, we should have anticipated that, but I personally didn't think it would be quite that much. We also had theft, and we had a last minute replacement of some of our AV equipment. Anything I'm missing here? Okay, and the discussion will continue. We've got the suggestion box over in Discord, venue selection channels. There's also the Q&A channel for this talk specifically. So we have quite a few questions. Let me move over to those and we'll take the rest of the time on that. Can someone queue up the questions?
Absolutely. Ken asks, 4 volunteers resigned from the committee this year. Are there plans to add new committee members?
Probably. We need help. And if you think you would be a good candidate, you think you have ideas, please let us know. We do need to add some additional committee members as we go back into an in-person event. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. We're also cautious about adding committee members as we're trying to stabilize the group that we have.
Mark asks, how can people like myself help with aspects of all the different things that are needed to help continue KansasFest?
That's a good question. I'm going to turn that over to the rest of the committee.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about helping with the museum-like aspects, and so again, that could be just scanning. It could be going to our storage facility and sorting through materials. That actually would probably be one of the most helpful things to do, and that would include potentially cataloging things that are there, setting things aside in piles for the garage giveaway, etc. And then a variety of other things. I can imagine somebody volunteering to help us with graphics, like the creating things for the website or whatever, if you're skilled in that. Or obviously, if the at the in-person KansasFest, we always need help setting things up and tearing things down. And in fact, that's how a lot of us got started. I think the committee would see someone who was moving tables and just kind of helping out behind the scenes. And, if they do that enough, then, maybe ask them to be on the committee or something. And so not that, you necessarily want to actually be on the committee per se, but any help that you can give is appreciated. So, definitely reach out to us and, either here on Discord or through one of the other channels. And we can see what you're interested in doing. And we've also talked about forming subcommittees, and we've never done that in the past, just because I think it in the past it always seemed like we could sort of handle things, but maybe this is the time. Maybe we need a museum subcommittee, or it'd be great to have like a virtual KansasFest subcommittee. I know there's a question coming up about are you going to continue the virtual KansasFest? And that's definitely a place where we could use the help. It's hard enough to run both the in-person, but if you add the virtual on top of that, that's a lot of work. And so maybe there's a group that loves doing virtual things, and they could take that over.
Felipe asks, can volunteers reside outside the United States?
Absolutely, yes. All of us on the planning committee right now are in different states, many hours away, thousands of miles apart. A few
Yep.
more thousand miles or kilometers doesn't make a difference.
Ken asks, do you expect next year's event to return in real life? And will it also have a separate virtual component?
Going back to the priorities I presented, yes. Chris, did you have something to add?
I was just going to say the same thing I just said, where, if we do have volunteers, that would just make it
Easier to do.
easier to do. Exactly.
Yeah.
If the virtual event doesn't happen next year, I think there'll be one reason. We didn't have enough volunteers to put it together.
Yeah, there's more work than people to do it.
It's definitely something that we want to perpetuate. It has opened up a whole new audience for what we do here, and the stories and the information that we share. So we definitely do want to keep that going, and to hold that door open for all the folks who just are not able to make it to a physical event in the USA.
Are the previously suggested meeting places included in this new search, as well as the ones you're asking for now?
Yes. If we're missing any venues that were previously suggested, it's an oversight. Let me know. I'll make sure it gets on the list.
Or just go out and put it in the survey.
Mhm.
Yeah, just go out and put it in the survey, and then we'll have all the data in one place.
The new survey, again, the beginning, the first step is only 5 questions. It's nice and short, just to get the general idea of what folks are suggesting. It's very simple. I filled it out in like 5 minutes.
And Ron, can we tell people how to get to that again?
Yes, KansasFest.org.
Yeah, but once you get there, any navigation tips?
We can
post the link.
post it. We'll post
Yeah,
it.
we should probably post it on the front page.
Yeah, right after this, I'll get it and posted in the stream as well.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Not so much a question, but just a compliment here. Steve says, I want to take a moment to thank the volunteers. As someone who's done it and continues to do it, it may seem like a thankless job. Please know that you are appreciated and recognized, and thank you for all that you do.
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
And the
Steve.
volunteers include everyone who is presenting a session as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Eric says, at some point, it would be good to provide guidelines for people who want to downsize their collections, places around the country that may accept their items and help preserve or
Redistribute.
redistribute those items. Yeah. And that might be an excellent presentation for KansasFest next year. I'm writing that down.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Protecting your legacy, making sure everything doesn't end up in a dumpster. Got it.
Yep. Everything goes to my daughter, who understands the value of it.
Sam asks, if the new Init Hello event takes off, would KansasFest consider a West Coast location? And I believe I saw a couple of West Coast locations suggested in that list earlier.
There were.
We're open to all locations and see what makes sense. I think KansasFest is unique in the type of space that it needs. And as I said, we're more of a summer camp than a traditional conference or trade show. And that requires a different space. So we'll look for wherever that is.
And I think we even tossed around the idea of maybe West Coast one year, East Coast the next year, West Coast the year after, et cetera. So.
All right. Joel says, there are a number of Apple II museums in existence. Has the committee considered partnering with one of those to catalog, house, and display the KansasFest items rather than create yet another one?
I think the answer is we have thought about it, but we have not gone any further than that. I mean, I think it does make sense. We're not planning on, I think, ever having like a physical museum anywhere. It would be more, our tentative plans are, scan in all the materials that we have, put those up on all the appropriate places like the Internet Archive, bring things around to each in-person KansasFest, So each year we might have a traveling exhibit, perhaps. This year will be the Apple III, and next year will be the Apple IIc, etc. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that it does make sense to look at other museums and see what they have to offer. I think in the past we've shied away from that a little bit because the Internet Archive, for example, I think once you kind of send things to them, and this is no shade on them, it just sort of goes into their warehouse, they scan it, which is awesome, but then you never see the physical materials again. And so it would be nice to have some place where we can still display those things, bring them out, take them around each year.
There was a great exhibit that was done last year of prototype items, especially things centering around the Apple IIc. There was a prototype large display for the Apple IIc. There was a lot of neat stuff that was just kind of in that conference room that you could go through and explore and learn more about. And I think that's really important. Maybe another consideration might be that a lot of these items were specifically entrusted to KansasFest, that there is a certain amount of trust that there are people in the community that have placed on this group of individuals. So it might require additional conversations with the people that made those donations to this group to find out if they would be comfortable with other people having those items or whatnot. Plus, there's a lot of time and trouble. I was not there. All I can do is thank the people that invested their weeks, and I'm not joking, weeks, going out, collecting items, keeping things out of the landfill, and preserving the history of this hobby. I say it all the time that, we're at the point where everybody's Apple IIc Plus, everybody's Original 2 are very well taken care of in their homes. But we're at the point now where we have to think about broader conservation efforts, because even as we shift into all the hardware is protected, there's stories, there's documentation, there's things like that. And I think KFest and this group of individuals is absolutely worthy of being able to lead those efforts and recruit the talent, where things are like, hey, we need somebody that's an expert on slide scanning or on some sort of video reconstruction effort or something, that they've been doing the work to reach out to people to help that. So I understand the concern with making sure that these things just continue on, and I can assure you that these folks are putting in the hours. Is helping the committee get back to financially neutral or positive as simple as donating to the site, or is there a better way to get involved?
We always welcome donations. If you're looking to make a larger donation, reach out to me so we can avoid the transaction fees that come through our website. However, more than financial donations, I think is the donation of your time, your expertise, and passion to add value to the event. People keep coming to KansasFest because there's value. There's something unique here.
Peter, one thing to add about that, just to clarify, I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are actually financially positive at this point. Is that correct?
Last year we were slightly negative. However, we still have a positive bank balance, so I'm not worried. We have enough of a savings to deal with some of those year-to-year fluctuations.
Yep. Although we'd obviously appreciate donations. So
yes, so I'm not worried about the future of KansasFest financially.
Martin, breaking news.
A link for the venue search.
A link for the venue search. Yeah.
Woo!
Ask and delivered. So thank you thank you to who pasted that in chat.
Okay, so with the date there, that looks like it's that looks like it might be one of the news articles. Is that coming from a posted news article from June, I guess?
Yes, we had a blog post on our site, and all the information is included in there. I'll create a shortcut URL to that so it's easier to find.
Yeah,
as this progresses, there'll need to be more information.
Yep.
Okay. We have
Did we
about
hit all
5
the
minutes
questions?
left on this segment before heading into break.
This is the last call for questions. Is there anything that we missed?
And Peter, let's also go back through the Discord and we'll just double check to make sure that there aren't any that we may have skipped over. And
Yeah,
we should
absolutely.
be able to just address those, interactively through the channel.
Yep.
Okay, if you think of anything else, please ask. Any other closing remarks from the committee members?
No, I just like to acknowledge the passion of the community. I mean, I think sometimes it can appear fractious and frustrating perhaps to people, but at the same time, we understand that everybody is very passionate about this, and it would be worse if it was just radio silence all around. So
Yeah.
it's great to see everybody participating, and hopefully usually in a positive way, and we really appreciate that.
And that's what'll make next year's event all the better.
We are a
As
small
Oscar Wilde
community.
said, the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Yeah.
And we are a small community, and I don't think there's space for division within the community, but there's space for differences. I do want to wrap up by thanking all of our volunteers, particularly Chris and Jay and Martin as committee members. I also want to thank Ron, although he's not a committee member, he's gone above and beyond helping out to make this virtual event possible.
Yeah.
So if we have one final question, the official procedure is to send any of us an email or a DM.
Well, I think probably the contact through the KansasFest website would also work just as well, right, Peter?
Absolutely, yes. We're a small group. We focus on getting things done rather than the process.
Great. Well, thanks to everybody for their wonderful questions. Thank you to the committee for answering everything and letting us know kind of how things are going. I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody back in person next year. I missed you guys this summer. It's been a lot of fun working with the committee this year to make sure that the virtual event would go on as planned. And I appreciate your confidence and thank you for reaching out to me. So.
And thank you, Ron, because the video has been awesome so far.
We've tried, although touch wood now. All right. Okay, so we've got about a 15-minute break coming up, and then we will. And I'll be correct this time, and then we'll go into our interview with John Conrad. So thanks everybody. Let's run some ads, and then let's watch some music videos.